Good morning, parents, and welcome to the Year 3 Stay and Learn workshop. So, the purpose of today is really for us to help you understand what it's like to teach and learn in a British curriculum school here in Dubai, to explore the curriculum expectations of Year 3 and how that's different from Year 2. And our focus today is predominantly going to be on maths, how our maths lessons are planned and delivered here at DBSJP. So our national curriculum here at DBSJP is the national curriculum for England and Wales, but that also sits alongside the curriculum expectations of the KHDA, which is our governing body here in Dubai. So we try and create a broad, balanced and skills-rich curriculum that has a focus on core subjects, English, maths and science, but that also sits alongside the Dubai expectations for children to learn Arabic and Islamic. But we also supplement this with arts, PE and languages, and our language of choice in Year 3 is French. The national curriculum for England and Wales is designed to have a progression of knowledge and skills year on year, so that new learning sticks to old learning. So we're building each year on the children's knowledge, but also the skills they have to be able to apply that knowledge to a range of situations. We focus heavily on developing independence in the children, developing resilience, and giving them opportunities for responsibility. And you might start to see that as you make your way around classrooms. They'll have different roles and responsibilities, such as book monitors, chair monitors, all of those sorts of things. You also might find when they come home now, they start asking for a little bit more responsibility at home too. So what's special about Year 3? Year 3 is probably one of my favourite year groups in school. It's the first year that they go into Key Stage 2, so they become what would traditionally in the UK be known as like the juniors. For some children, that means going upstairs to their classrooms for the first time, and it's an opportunity as well for the children to trial and play for some of our sports squads here at JP. Our learning assistants, where they were one per class in Year 2, in Year 3 they go to being shared. So we have 4 learning assistants in Year 3 and they are shared between the 7 classes. We also have a really exciting school trip this year, which takes the children out into the desert to the Overlord Academy. And it's almost a bit like having a camp experience without the overnight stay that they get in Year 4. So it's kind of a step between your kind of usual school trips that you're used to in Key Stage 1, but also getting them ready for that overnight residential that's coming up in Year 4. You'll also see as well, particularly with today's maths lesson, there is increased complexity in maths. So our times tables get a bit trickier. You know, you would have been used to doing things like the 2s, 5s and 10s. Now the children's are working on 4s and 8s. We'll be skip counting, so we don't just count in order, we'll be counting sort of forwards, backwards, upside down, inside out, and we'll also be working with 3-digit numbers, and you'll find that the complexity increases in the children's home learning as well. So how we plan the national curriculum for our children here at JP. We start with the national curriculum for England and Wales, and that's our big picture. That sits alongside with the curriculum expectations for the UAE. And we take those and we chunk them and develop them into yearly long-term plans. And we have to really think about the length of our terms here in Dubai. So our term 1 and our term 3 are much longer in time than term 2. So we start to look at where we need to give more time for different skills, where they would be better placed in the year. Once we have our yearly long-term plans, these are turned into curriculum maps, and the curriculum maps are what gets shared with you at home as parents, and that takes those objectives and divides them down even further into smaller, more manageable chunks that last us the term. These also then are accompanied by themes. So for Year 3, we have a term 1 theme of the Stone Age, and you'll see that the theme of the Stone Age is woven into our maths, our English, our science, as well as the children getting an opportunity to have some learning of the history of that time too. Those themes change termly, and we've got other really exciting themes coming up later this year, such as the Egyptians. These termly maps, curriculum maps, termly overviews are taken and broken down into weekly planning, and it's that weekly planning that is delivered to the children in the classroom by the class teacher. That is also supplemented by ongoing assessment. So teachers do what we call formative assessment all lesson, every lesson. We are constantly assessing how much the children have understood and how many of the children are ready to move on to their next stage of learning. That also helps us to determine how long we need to spend on different topics. So, for example, today you're going to see division in maths. If we find that some of our children are finding that a tricky concept to grasp, we might spend longer than was initially intended on that topic before we move on to the next one. As I mentioned earlier, new learning sticks to old learning, so we have to make sure something like division is secure before we can move on to teaching the children about things like fractions. We don't just reflect in the middle of every lesson, we get to the end of units and we reflect retrospectively as well, and we look at what could we have done differently, how could we adapt our provision for the children in order to help meet their needs, and how that impacts the children going forward into the next term too. One of the things that you're going to see in action in the classrooms today is John Hattie's visible learning, and this is a pedagogy that was employed by all of the DBS school clusters, and it really focuses on clear learning intentions, so making sure that teachers start lessons where children know exactly what they're learning that day and that the children are able to articulate that to the adults in the room and to their peers. What also sits alongside those learning intentions is success criteria, and that success criteria is designed to guide that process for the children. The children should be able to recognise at which point in the lesson they have been successful. The teacher then uses open questioning, and that open questioning is there designed to create deeper thinking. We're quite often more focused on how a child has come to understand a concept than we are whether or not they got the answer correct. Once we can understand their understanding of a concept, we can adapt our pedagogy accordingly. And then really importantly for the children, we want them collaborating together and we want them to be able to reflect on their own learning. So the spotlight on maths today, why it's important in year 3. I mean, maths is important in every year group, but today really is going to be about you seeing the start of Key Stage 2 maths and kind of the accelerated rate of progress that children are going to make with mathematical concepts. They're going to start to look at maths in more complex ways now. They've got a basic understanding of procedures, but we're going to start to really build their confidence with larger numbers, applying their understanding of maybe 1 or 2 digit numbers that they have from Key Stage 1 right up to the number 1000. And also starting to explore patterns, starting to see if we can really spot the relationship between numbers and how that can help us to get a better understanding of mathematical concepts. It's also the year that we introduce formal written methods. So in Key Stage 1, there's a big focus on children using manipulatives such as counters to help with their learning. But as we progress our way through year 3, you'll start to see them using pencil and paper written methods more often, which is probably more of what you're familiar with from your own time at school. We also strengthen the children's reasoning and problem solving once we get to year 3. So as they have a slightly better understanding of some mathematical concepts, we can start to really push them to start thinking about things differently or in a way that they're not used to. And we always want the children to be able to explain why a method has been chosen or why a method works for them. This also helps the children to develop their independence. We're giving them a range of strategies they can use to solve a problem, and they have the choice then as to which strategy they want to employ in their learning that works for them. And that really is all about us getting them ready and prepared for future learning. It's setting the groundwork for the learning that's about to come in year 4 and beyond. Today's maths learning lesson that you're going to see is all about grouping and sharing. It is a division lesson. You're going to see division today taught through real life links. You're going to come across the CPA approach. So that's our concrete using physical resources, pictorial using images to help them, and then going on to using those written methods to help secure their understanding. Students are going to be really involved in their own assessment today. So you're going to see self-assessment areas set up outside the classrooms where the children can go and check their understanding. They have moments where they can have a progress check, see where they're at, come back in and refine their practice. And this is really designed to challenge the children, but also to encourage deeper thinking. You might also see support and scaffolds in and around the classroom. Manipulative, so things like counters or base 10 will be used to support the children. There'll be written steps of success that they can follow a step at a time to help them. And you might also see support maps with things like vocabulary on them that also aid their learning. How you can get involved as parents. So your role in the classroom today is to allow your child to take the lead. Assist them in solving their grouping and grouping and sharing questions, but don't give them the answers. Try and lead them to them themselves. You can do this by asking questions. What are you learning today? Why are you learning this? How will you know that you've been successful? If your child makes a mistake, help to explain their mistake or ask them if they can see where they went wrong. Use the steps to success to help with this. And like I said, let your child lead the way today. How you can help at home. I think maths is probably one of the easiest things that you can help with at home. It's something that we use every single day in our practical lives. So getting them practicing their times table regularly, I can't stress enough how important this is. Everything we do in maths comes back to those times tables. If they've got a really secure understanding of their 5 times tables, they're going to find telling the time much easier as we move on to that, and so on. Encourage reasoning with the children. So ask them questions like, how do you know? Can you prove it? Or alternatively, is there another way? Support their independence. Let them check their own work. Let them spot their mistakes rather than correcting them for them. But also give them links to real life problems. Bags of apples. Apples come in bags of 3. I need 8 apples. How many bags of apples am I going to need to buy? Is 2 bags going to be enough? And so on. Get children out there being practical with their maths. If you're going to the shops, get them paying with some cash. Get them adding up the totals. If they're asking you how long till you go somewhere, talk to them about the time. Talk to them about what they can see on the clock and how many minutes are going to pass. If you're cooking at home, get them measuring the equipment, get them timing the recipes, and so on. So you're going to make your way into classrooms now. Have a lovely time. Enjoy taking part in the learning. Downstairs, you'll find Bluewater's DAS, Palm and Futesi class, and upstairs, you'll find Najum, Ariam, and Marawa. Be a co-learner, join the fun, and have a wonderful time. Thank you for coming.